What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. I'm joined today by Sam Claiborne, Caleb Lawson,
Hello.
and Brian Altano.
Rap.
And we're talking about Tomb Raider. We've all been playing Tomb Raider, and I think it's safe to say we all really like Tomb Raider.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Brian and Caleb have both finished the game. I'm well into it, and Sam is even farther than I am into it. Now, the game includes these death animations for Lara Croft. They're pretty grisly. I would liken them to what we see in Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space, that sort of thing. We have clips of exactly what we're talking about right here. If we can pull it up on the monitor. Very grisly death animations for Lara Croft. Like,
oh no, what's this one?
Like this one.
She's just on a rope.
Oh, this one's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Right through the throat.
Oh!
So
I didn't even see that one.
No, it's a similar
Struggling
one.
and everything.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst one.
It's similar to the one that we see when she's in the rapids going down and she gets impaled.
Yeah. There's a lot of impaling.
So there's a lot of these just sort of sprinkled throughout the game.
This one, because
that
you can
get
like
to
see your
I know.
face, you know.
So these are in the game.
I watching them all in succession really does hammer it home, doesn't it?
and like we're giggling and stuff, but like I don't find these funny. I find them like terrifying.
Well,
So this is-
and they're really hard to watch.
This is what brings us to today's topic. Under normal circumstances, we would often do a kill montage or a death montage in games like Dead Space and Resident Evil.
Yeah, in Dead Space, you see a guy getting chopped up by a fan. You're like, ha!
Yeah.
You know.
But when we talked about possibly doing this for Tomb Raider, that made some of us uncomfortable. I wonder why that is.
I agreed to do your show today, Mr. Hatfield, because I love your show.
Yes.
This is great. But I hadn't seen some of those.
Oh, wait.
The rope through the neck thing, that is horrible. Oh, God.
Why are you prefacing that? You don't want to be on the show now?
No, I do. I was just like, damn, I knew we were going to talk about death animations. I don't know we were going to talk about those death animations.
Did your opinion change?
I mean, I don't.
No, because we were already talking about.
So you've beaten the game and you didn't even see some
I
of
never
those.
saw those. I guess I'm better than whoever was playing that time. And I didn't die in those ways. I died in other horribly uncomfortable ways. Those were rough.
Yeah.
The rope neck thing, that is...
She's like trying to pull it out for like 2 seconds.
And even if she does, she's like 100 feet in the air. Like, you're not going to get out of that.
Yeah. Is the difference because the death animations are more gruesome than normal, or is it because she's a woman?
So I think there's something weird about this game in that it starts you off, and it's like you take on this persona, and it's about like keeping this person alive, whether or not it's a man or a woman. Like, she goes through all this stuff where they a lot of video games, they start you with things and then take everything away, and Tomb Raider kind of does this well, where all of a sudden you're beaten, battered, and you're like, I gotta get this girl. She can barely even walk. She can't even cross this river. Okay, I have to get her to safety. So when she actually does get hurt, it feels horrible. Like, it's really real, and it really affects you. It's sort of like the first time you saw the kid die in Limbo. We were like, I'm just gonna walk through these woods. I don't know what's going on. It's like, oh, you got impaled in the face. Oh, that's horrible. Whereas, Dead Space, Resident Evil, you're playing Resident Evil 4, and all of a sudden the guy with a potato sack and a chainsaw runs up behind you, and he's like, ah, and everyone's screaming Spanish.
He cuts your head off with.
And he cuts your head off. Or like a insect comes and vomits acid on your face. It's cartoony and it's ridiculous.
There's certain scenes in Resident Evil. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and those two examples are perfect for Resident Evil. The first time I saw Leon kind of get chopped in half by the chainsaw, because you're kind of fighting, he struggles, and then it just buzzes through him. You see way too much of that. I almost felt the same way about it in that game, and so it makes me question whether it's because Lara Croft's a woman or anything like that. That said, there's a lot of scenes in which you're kind of being choked to death by men, and kind of almost like violent scenes that you don't even see in movies that much, because they kind of represent like realistic violence too much.
Yeah.
Instead of the cartoon violence we've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's sort of, I think, hits the nail on the head. When I was playing the game, the death animations didn't bother me because as a gamer, I feel somewhat desensitized to that. Not desensitized to the real world violence, but desensitized to it within the context of a game.
Sure.
Yeah, we've seen Isaac Clarke get chopped up a billion times, we've seen Leon Kennedy get chopped up a billion times. The difference here is the context, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like when a necromorph cuts off Isaac's head and there's a 10 feet of arterial spray, like, you expect that. It's a horror game, it's part of the genre, and it's part of the overall tone that's set within that game. And Tomb Raider does such a fantastic job of setting up Lara as a real person that this weird, like, video gamey flourish just kind of seems like the wrong tone. It seems out of context.
It really seems out of place. And I think, and we mentioned this Kevin McDonald, who reviewed it for IGN, mentioned this in their official review, that you have the first time you kill someone in the game. You know, it's that like much talked about scene where there's a guy and he like maybe making some sort of aggressive sexual advances on you. You steal his gun or whatever, you kill him, he's gone, and it's like, oh shit! And she gets up and she's like, she's got to like process.
She's like covered in blood.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe it did that. And then 10 minutes later, you're running through the woods. You're
not
shooting
even 10
everybody.
minutes later.
Yeah, not even 10 minutes later.
Yeah,
and then by the end of the game, you've killed thousands of people, and I'm sure all of them got arrows to the eye or like a shrapnel bomb hit them or something like that. But you never see like really like sometimes you'll run up and somebody stab him in the head or something like that. But there are moments in this game where a guy grabs you, holds you up by the throat, just takes like a sword and just goes right through your face.
And Tomb Raider is always...
And it goes through the back of your head.
Tomb Raider has always had death animations. I remember even back like in the first original Tomb Raiders on the PlayStation.
Hearing
like,
that crunch.
Like,
when you fell too far.
Do you remember diving
yeah,
off of like
absolutely.
the third story and
that was
the
always
body crumpling?
like,
or you fall into like a pit of spikes and she gets impaled, or a boulder rolls over you and there's that crunching. But I mean, what's the goal of it now? I understand then, right? Like, you're at a graphical place where maybe you need to telegraph, like, hey, this is why you died.
So you asked what the goal of it now. Sam previously made an interesting point that he feels it's a game mechanic because it gives you extra incentive to not die because you don't want to see these awful animations. I think that's interesting.
And especially if you see them once, like there's one death animation in which you just fall in some water where you're not supposed to be. You can swim in this game pretty freely, but sometimes you fall in water and you get kind of crushed against this coral. And it happens really suddenly, and again, it's a very violent kind of head impact thing. And you don't fall into the water again after that. You know, it's like you stop testing out the jumps a little bit more and stuff.
There's two types of death animations in the games. There's the ones where something bad happens to you and it immediately fades to black. And then there's the ones where the worst thing ever happens to you. There's no in between. It's not
and
like
those are all context sensitive too.
Like you've seen games where somebody falls in the water and they're like, whoa, 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 and then it just fades to black because they drown. But this is like, now we're gonna smack her head against some rocks, like, poof, and then she's like, ah, and blood shoots out, and she like floats up a little bit.
So I think
so gross.
And we all agree, and I'm not sure if you do, Caleb, that I think it has a place in the game, and I think it's good in the game. It's just. And the reason why we're talking about it is because we're just not making a death montage because I feel like maybe pulling it out from the game, it feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Well,
and that's really interesting.
I don't need it in the game, but I absolutely understand that. And I mean, maybe that does even go further in establishing the fact that this is a real person. Because you're seeing these deaths, they're so horrible and they're so visceral because, you know, that's what happens when you die in these horrible situations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the setting. I don't know why. It's sort of just like being in a forest in the middle of the woods and all of a sudden a wolf kills you. It's different than being on a spaceship where you're like, there's crewmen, there's health packs, there's a medical lab around the corner. Everything's all high tech.
Let's say, you know, one day in the distant future when space travel is possible, that will be our reality. And then it won't seem so
then it's
so comical.
It's not science fiction anymore.
To me, it's just like when you see a branch go through somebody in the woods, it's like, oh, they are so far from a hospital. That's my first go-to.
You know, another thing they do in this game is they elevate pain a lot, and so she's kind of whimpering a lot, and kind of, and it's because she has an initial injury in the game, and I think that's a struggle throughout the game. And at one point, you know, you get beat up in different ways, and then she starts reacting more and more to those. So when you see, you know. Any extension of that violence, you're like, it already seems like a struggle to do certain things, like jump and stuff like that, which you do in the game, which I think is brilliant. I think it's a really cool thing.
Because you're used to violence all over the place.
It's very personal in the game.
I just played through a sequence last night where, you know, you mentioned that injury you sustained early in the game. That becomes so bad that she can't even like climb up on a ledge.
Yeah.
So,
and you're walking by ledges and you're like, I'm so used to going up there.
Yeah,
and
no,
she's
she
like,
can't do that. It's like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really hard to watch.
So like when we had a clip of just like 3 or 4 of those death animations earlier. There's many, many more in the game.
Yeah, like dozens.
When we saw just those few together, we were like, oh. And then when we started thinking about cutting like a long video together, it started to feel like, I think, like a snuff film.
Well, yeah, what's the point of it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I do think that
genuinely, what is the point of it?
So I do think fake violence can be very entertaining, you know. And
Super Meat Boy?
Well, sure, but I mean, like even like a movie like Drive, you know, or even like that's
Mortal Kombat.
That's just one example. And when I play the game, like I do sort of get a thrill out of these death animations, but I realize that it comes with a trade-off of believing this world as being realistic. You know, I think as soon as you are invested in believing this is a realistic world, then the death can't be entertaining, right? Enjoyable. So I realize it's a fine line to
like
walk.
they're totally treading this like uncanny valley thing with the game, because I've been playing it and talking to people at work and just saying this is like the best looking console game I've ever
really
played.
pretty.
It's incredible looking. You see like all her cuts and scratches and everything right down to her.
She's like a sheet of sweat, and like the dirt changes as you play.
Yeah,
like, there's
so
a lot of attention.
Everything
to
feels real. It's not like Lara, where she would just have the blue tank top, and no matter what happened, she had this perfect blue tank top and these Matrix sunglasses, and it's like, hey guys, and everything was fine no matter what. This is like, she's got blood all there's a part in the game where she's literally covered in blood, just crawling through guts and stuff like that. So
she goes through hell.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great ride though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it is.
We all really love the game. So like these deaths are in the game, but obviously, I think people will be talking about it. But obviously, even if you think their inclusion was questionable, you guys still really love the game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Tomb Raider's out now. You guys should definitely play it. We were just talking about how good it looks. I haven't even seen it on PC yet. I really want to check that out because it's amazing on consoles. I imagine it looks even better on PC.
Brian says there's a new hair engine.
Yeah, the new
hair engine.
Individual hairs.
Multiple hair engines.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll be talking a lot more about Tomb Raider here on IGN, and we'll be having a lot more video game discussions right here on GameScoop very soon.